I want to walk through what the virtual communication looks like when doing the immune system program. We're going to break it down into three areas. There is the encounter, there's the impact, and there's the action. So when it comes to the actual encounter, the thing people need to know is you are going to encounter the COVID-19 virus. You are going to encounter it. Because whether you come across it this year, or you come across it next year or the year after, the CDC has told us every year, just like flu season, will be COVID-19 season. You're going to meet it unless you hide in your basement the rest of your life. So the key here is you've got to be building your health and immunity so you're not hiding in your houses. That's the key thing here. In order to do that, we look at the fact that what do we have to do to survive the encounter? Because if you encounter it, one of three things is going to happen. Number one, 50% of the people have such an efficient and healthy immune system, there are no symptoms whatsoever. Actually, it's a problem because they could spread it still. Their bodies are so strong, they don't know they have it. The second thing is your immune system isn't so good, and as a result, you get infected, and it's a really horrible fight. It could last 20 to 37 days, cause damage to the lungs, and really be an uncomfortable time. The third scenario, of course, is your immune system is functioning so poorly that this virus can't be shed, and eventually you perish, you die from this infection. So that is the encounter that's going to happen. We want people to be working on their immune system so they have an encounter with it and have no symptoms, or again, shed the virus easily in like 7 or 8 days. So the next thing then is the impact. So since you're going to encounter this, what must you do? So you have to look at inflammation levels, you got to look at vitamin D levels, and you have to address your other nutrient levels and your antioxidants. All that has to be addressed. So inflammation. So we know already, and we're telling this to our patients all the time, that inflammation caused by poor diet, caused by stress, subluxation, nutrient deficiencies. Inflammation is at the root of every chronic illness, all the bad ones, heart disease, stroke, cancer, autoimmune disease, all the things that can really harm you, hurt you, affect the vast majority of the population, and can eventually cause you to die early. It's from inflammation. So we already know people in general are not managing inflammation well. In fact, many experts, many infectious disease experts are saying the problem with the virus is not the virus itself, it's our inability to manage inflammation. Because if it's already high and already not being managed well, and now you get infected, the people that don't survive, and this is what the studies show us, the studies divide survivors from non-survivors. The people that survive, they've been managing inflammation well, continue to manage it through the inflammatory process that goes on with normal immunity, the normal immune reaction to the virus, and those people end up fine. They shed the virus in an average of 20 days. But people that already had high inflammation because they already weren't managing it to begin with, now get infected. That inflammation goes even further out of control, and the inflammatory markers stay high, particularly IL-6 and IL-1 beta. Those inflammatory markers stay high all the way until death. Or again, for way longer than is as comfortable, and that IL-1 beta causes like the scar tissue and the damage to the lungs, all because you're not managing inflammation. So we have to be able to manage inflammation, and we need to know where it's at right now so that when we meet the COVID-19 virus, we already have it under control. Otherwise, you could, if it wasn't under control, you see people just slip quickly. We read about all the time, they got it and they plummeted quickly and died. That's somebody whose body had no ability to manage inflammation. The second thing you have to be able to manage is the white blood cell count. So when you get an infection, white blood cells are supposed to go up in this immune arc, and those white blood cells are what attacks the virus, and eventually what turns into the antibodies so that you have immunity. However, in people that were the non-survivors, they had low white blood cell counts when it started. So we knew even before they had it, they had low white blood cell counts. White blood cell counts were low when they got it. White blood cell counts stayed low, and they died. For the survivors, right off the bat, white blood cells took off, did their job to attack this virus, and create the antibodies, and came back down to normal. So we've got to make sure we've got that under control. So what do we have to do? We have to get tested. You have to get your inflammation markers tested, particularly IL-6 and IL-1 beta, and you have to get vitamin D tested. You have to, because vitamin D is what regulates the immune system. It's regulating the release of those leukocytes, of those white blood cells, and most people are walking around with painfully deadly low levels of vitamin D. A lot of people might say, well, just take vitamin D, but how much do you know that you need? You might need 20 to 50,000 units a day to get yourself up to that 60 to 100 level of vitamin D in your bloodstream to be ready to fight this virus. You've got to get tested to know. It's not an option. You've got to get tested. The other thing you need to start right away is taking these nutrients, because your ability to manage oxidation, have the level of antioxidants in the system has to be there. You've got to be taking at all times your omega-3s to be managing inflammation, and you've got to be taking vitamin D at all times. So taking your Edison pack for all your nutrients, for all your antioxidants, for all the antioxidant blends, you have to be on that at all times, particularly right now. You've got to be taking your omega-3s at all times to manage inflammation, particularly right now. And then vitamin D, again, is a life or death nutrient at this point. So people, you get tested, you start on your nutrients in your bundle there. Those tests will come back and will let you know exactly where you are and what specifically we may have to do in terms of adjusting this more with your diet, with possibly additional supplements or more of the ones that you're taking, so that you're doing everything you can do to be ready for this virus. You can't just hide inside. That may be what the government's doing to blunt the curve right now, but the only way for you to survive, not only now, but in the future and ever be free, is get the test, take the supplements, follow our dietary recommendations. We'll meet with you again in a week to 10 days once those results have come back, and give you your personalized plan to save your life. And of course, before that test comes back, I'd have people do their ERE. So we have more to discuss once the tests come back. So that's not only possibly more D and more omega as part of their plan and a diet, but it's also other testing. A lot of the follow-up tests would include like a food sensitivities test, or even addressing other areas that are causing problems like thyroid or hormones and many other issues. So hopefully this prepares you. We're here for you. Make sure you've watched both videos to be ready to do virtual wellness. There's no reason not to stay successful right now by having patients all throughout your community that aren't even necessarily coming in, that you're doing through telehealth, or even taking care of people on the other side of the world. Bless you guys. Keep leading. Remember who you are.